Still in the isometric family, we have a variant of the yielding isometrics, which would be loaded stretching. The difference is that you will still hold that isometric action, trying to prevent a load from coming down, but now you will do that in the position where the target muscle is at its most lengthened position. That's a great method for so many reasons. I try to put it in as many programs as I can. The gains you will make from that technique outsurpasses pretty much all other methods combined, at least in the breadth of different gains you will have. First, it's one of the best way to increase active range of motion. You will get a great stretching effect, but you not only increase range of motion, you increase range of motion while maintaining tension in the muscle involved in that range of motion. So for example, let's say I'm a football player and I'm tackling someone, okay? Well, many injuries to the biceps or pectoral could occur in that position because the muscle is being stretched and maybe it's not trained properly to produce force when it is at its most lengthened position. Because when you do regular bench pressing, first we don't reach those extreme ranges of motion, and the deeper position we get, the force is produced mostly by utilizing the stretch reflex. You actually learn to minimize muscle contraction, muscle tension in those positions, making the muscle more vulnerable to being torn apart when it's suddenly stretched, okay? So when you do loaded stretching, what you do is in those extreme ranges position, you are maintaining tension in the target muscle. You're programming the nervous system to be able to produce maximum tension even when the muscle is maximally lengthened. So it's a great way to protect yourself against injuries. Also, it's one of the best methods to strengthen or develop your tendons, okay? Very effective for that purpose. It's a great hypertrophy method. It will increase muscle size, which by the method called stretch-induced hypertrophy. There was a recent review of literature recently by Dr. Schoenfeld finding that stretching at the end of your session can significantly increase hypertrophy over not stretching. But if you stretch with weights, it's even more effective because not only do you get the stretch, but you also get the muscle fatigue from the stretch. So, and the loaded stretching, don't forget, it's really a very slow eccentric action because what happens is you reach that most extreme position, but as the muscle fatigues from the effort, it will increase the range of motion because it just can't hold that in place. So it's a very, very, very slow eccentric action with all the benefits it entails on the tendons. So what it looks like, I'm going to use it for biceps here because we are in a biceps team, but it can be used on pretty much any exercise or muscle if you can pinpoint the best position to put that muscle in its most lengthened position. So for biceps, I'm going to lie down on the bench. And I'm going to start elbows down as much as I can. I'm using the back to pull down, and then I will extend until I reach a most stretched position. And I try to maintain tension in those biceps, and it will, over time, increase, go lower, lower, lower. That would be the loaded stretch for biceps. Obviously, you can use that with pretty much any loaded movement you can. Dumbbell flies, for example, or the most painful one, Bulgarian split squat. Go in as low as you can and just hold that position and hold and hold and hold. Any movement where you can put the muscle that you're targeting in a stretch position while maintaining tension, that method can be used. Now, when would you put that in the program? Well, it can be used at the beginning. It can be used at the beginning of the program if your main goal is an increase in range of motion. So for example, maybe you don't have great hip and ankle range of motion, so you could do Bulgarian split squat, loaded stretch, before a squat workout. That will allow you to get into a better low squat position. The downside is that of all the training methods you can do, the loaded stretch is one of the methods that has the highest amount of central fatigue. The reason is, and first of all, okay, let's recap central fatigue. It's a weakening of the excitatory drive from the central nervous system to the muscle. When you have more central fatigue, the signals that activate your muscle is weaker, making it harder to recruit the fast twitch fibers, making strength, hypertrophy, and power training less effective. Okay? So the more central fatigue you cause, the harder it is to have a powerful workout. Okay? Now, the main signal that will trigger central fatigue is the afferent signal sent by the muscle, tendons, fascia, etc. tendons to the nervous system. Afferent signals giving information about the level of effort, discomfort, pain, whatever during an exercise. The less comfortable, the more painful a movement is, the more signal it sends to the muscle, the greater the central fatigue. And trust me, if you do a loaded stretch with the proper weight, meaning that at the end of the set, you cannot hold that position, so it's so painful, there's no method that will cause as much afferent signals to the nervous system. No method that is as uncomfortable as that, creating a large amount of central fatigue. Okay? So by putting that at the beginning of the workout, the risk is negatively impacting the rest of your workout. Now, if you judge, you know what, the gains in mobility are worth it, then use it. But if the loss in performance is not worth it, it's better to put it at the end of your workout, when it will not negatively impact anything else because the workout has already been done. And as a recent study by Schoenfeld found, the stretching at the end of the workout is more effective at stimulating growth. So that's where I would put it. Now, depending on what you're shooting for, the duration of the set will last anywhere between 1 minute up to 3 minutes per set. I like a total time under tension of 3 to 5 minutes, not necessarily in one set. It can be done in 4, 5, 3, 2 sets, but the goal is to reach that 3 to 5 minutes of tension in as little time as possible. Okay? But that's the proper zone if you want to get those gains. Now, if my goal is to use that method mostly as a way to build hypertrophy, I'm going to use a load with which holding a minute is really hard. If I'm shooting more from a range for a range of motion or even tendon development aspect, I might go with a load that will allow me to hold that position for 2 minutes or even 3 minutes in one set. Okay? So depending on what you're trying to accomplish, the variable will vary slightly.